Stanley Kwok. At 93, he remembers all of the details, all the meetings, all the challenges of being the face of Vancouver's mega development on the north shore of False Creek following Expo '86. It was not easy convincing Vancouver at that time that we had to start moving towards more density and more services for our increasing population. As the lead designer, architect, developer, he faced his critics with grace and aplomb, eventually winning over the Vancouver City Council that I was a part of. Stanley Kwok changed the trajectory of urban planning with this remarkable mega project. Stanley, you were a success in Hong Kong. You were an architect, of course, and
Yes.
president of the Society of Architects, and you had projects going. Why would you leave Hong Kong and come to Canada?
Well, if you remember in 1967, 67, there was a riot in Hong Kong. And it was instigated by the Red Guards at the time. And I just felt that I was 40 at the time, and I feel that I could start somewhere. It's either that or you go somewhere when you retire. So I chose that, and I said, why not? Let's try. So I came to Vancouver with 4 kids, a wife, and no job. And I don't know anybody here.
Brave.
Now I think back, it is very brave. I don't think I'll do it again.
So you have very direct experience of building projects in Hong Kong, and then you come to Vancouver and building projects in Vancouver. Tell me the difference in how things work.
Oh, it is very, very different. Because in Hong Kong, everybody thinks about the mighty dollar and not what the consequence of the building is. But as somebody trained to be an architect, you always think about what's for public good. And really, that is really the difference. That in Vancouver, they think of people's good more than they think about money.
And from your point of view, was it a lot slower to get things done here?
Yes and no. The yes part is, in Hong Kong, they have building rules. And as long as you stay with the rules, and they have to deem it approved if you follow all the rules. And they were given 1 month to say yes or no. So if you believe your project is okay and they haven't replied to you for a month, you just go ahead and do it, which they don't do it here.
No. In fact, even when you follow the rules here, sometimes they say, no.
No, you do it. How about this? How about that? And you have to do much more schemes than you would, because there's no rule to follow.
So you came here with no specific job, and you end up with one of the greatest jobs ever for an architect, a huge piece of downtown Vancouver, and you become involved.
Well, that only came by luck. The province created BC Place because at that time, the real estate, the whole market wasn't doing well in Vancouver.
The economy.
And the premier wants to do something to sort of bring the place up. But basically what they were trying to bring is that BC doesn't have a stadium. And at that time, when they play football, it was played at P&E in that area. And it can only take 20,000 spectators. And they want to build a stadium that will take more people. So they have considered the downtown area where they could park the cars at night for the stadium, and also for the stadium to create activities so that the downtown could be more vibrant. That was how it began. And of course, one thing led to another, And then came BC Place, came Expo, and the development henceforth. What they believe in is that you should have a master plan done of the place and then sell them off piecemeal, which Bennett sort of was wholeheartedly for it. And then towards the end of Expo, Bill Bennett resigned, and I think Van der Zem came on the scene as the new premier. And with Grace McCarthy together, they decided to sell the land as one piece rather than individually. So they went for an international competition. I believe there was 13 interested parties that was trying to bid for it. None of us know what the other guys were going to do. It was a proposal for design as well as development. So that's how we came up with that price. At that time, if you buy a piece of land in downtown Vancouver along Pacific Boulevard with the city roads already there, with the city service already there, all you have to do is just build a building. It's about $35 per square foot. And I believe that in our calculation, we believe, in order to develop the 86 acres of land, not only you have to develop the parks, you have to give the parks to the Parks Board. You have to build the roads, you have to give the roads to the city. And when you count, and it takes you about 15 years at that time would calculate to do the project. So it was based on those numbers that the thing came together. So it was really unfair for people to say that they didn't pay for the right price, that the Vancouver developers didn't have a chance, because it went on a worldwide competition basis.
What was the price finally?
The price ending up was about $30 a square foot. And if you buy a ready-made piece, it's about $35 at the time.
So you think it was a fair price that was paid?
I believe so.
So from the beginning, did you have an overall vision of what it should look like and what the numbers should be?
No, I have no idea. Because it all depends on, when you have the piece of land, what would people want? Because after all, you design it for people who's going to live there, not for you as a developer or for anybody else. And for them to want to live in there, that's what I believe at the time, this is something what they would want. And sure enough, right now, today, I find people who's lived there before, which they can say now, and they like it. And to me, that is more important than what anybody says, because those are the people you're designing for.
There were many in Vancouver that thought, oh, too many people, too much density, too much traffic. You remember, I remember.
Yes, we remember that. But in reality, it wasn't. And if you look at it today, compare with whatever, let's compare with what they're doing in Burnaby right now. It's not overdoing it.
But it was early in the game, and it was interesting for Vancouver.
You see, what I've been thinking about is that the sea is like a necklace of a woman. The seawalk is the necklace, and the parks, the public places are the jewels. And what more do you want?
The process was lengthy. About how many years, how many meetings did you go to get all the zoning through?
Well, actually, it's funny. The whole process took us about 107, in round numbers, about 170 meetings. It would be sometimes, everything is counted. For instance, a church group would come and say, why don't you do that? And I took it very seriously, and I went back And I say, if I do that, what would happen? So in the next group, I will say, now, this is what they told me last time. I've tried it. This one worked, that one worked, this one didn't work. Why it didn't work? And so after you're doing it a few times, people believe you in this and felt that you're not sort of putting wool over their eyes. And they start to accept that. And the way that we work is that sometimes when you work with the planning department, the planners want certain things, but the city engineer, social housing, parks board doesn't want it. So what I was able to persuade the city at the time was to have two meetings. One is with the planner, what they want. Second one was with everybody there putting their 2 bits worth. So I would meet with the planners on a Friday and with the other people on Monday. So in between those 2 weekends, I work, and we all work. And so the planner wants certain things, and you say, now, if they want that, this is how it can work. But by working it that way, it may affect the roads, it may affect the parks, it may affect various different things. Do you guys agree? And they will come up and say, we agree or we don't agree. And then we will sort of make other changes again for the next Friday. And this went on for about a year.
Well, I was involved in that process, of course, because I was sitting on council and watching you and talking to you about what was happening. I couldn't believe your patience, actually.
Well, you need a lot of patience because a lot of suggestions, if I may use the word, could be rubbish, but you've got to deal with it. And you have to say, why, if you say it's rubbish, why is it? If it isn't, you should accept it. And this is why I believe, because as a developer, I believe what the city planners are trying to do is really trying to make the city better. And there's no reason why not to.
And of course, from the developer's point of view, they have to be able to make money or it's not going to go.
Well, it all could, when you have that big piece of land, you could maneuver it that you can make money. Not a lot of money as long as you don't be too greedy.
So looking at it now, I remember one of the plans that came forward was sort of a lagoon city.
Yes. I wish I did that one.
That's the one you preferred.
I prefer much better. You see, that one was take after, when you look at the BC map, you have Vancouver, you have Victoria, and then in between you have your Gulf Islands. And the island idea for this area, I still believe it's the right one.
Do you remember the reason why it failed?
Well, the city didn't want it. They feel that you should extend the city over. But at that time, my idea was that you do extend it over, but in a different character. That's the only difference.
Well, I remember one particular politician calling it, it's elitist. It's just for
They have, yes.
the wealthy people.
I don't believe so, because the roads will still be the same. It's just that the way you divide the land up is different. And the way, when we talk about the lagoon scheme, it was actually meant for, in fact, we went through a lot of engineering issues that when we go high tide, you keep the water level high, and when it comes low level, it goes down very slowly, so that you can still row your boat along that area, and you make that part of Pacific Boulevard. But we weren't allowed, we were told not to do it. But for expedience sake, it's so much easier not to do it.
What about social housing?
Well, the city wanted 20% social housing. We said this is allocated for social housing. It's up for the city. But one thing that people always forget is that whatever you say you want to do, it's always money. With no money, you get no housing. With no money, you get no roads. With no money, you get no parks. So money is a very important thing. So you have to really analyze who pays for it. But nobody ever does that. Now, from the citizens' point of view, they always think the City Hall has all the money. The City Hall's point of view, everybody else has all the money. So who really does have all the money? It's all one person, the taxpayer.
It's interesting, you know, when Li Ka-shing was first in the news and that he was interested in investing in Vancouver and British Columbia, I think a lot of people felt pretty honored, like, we're Vancouver, and he was such a wealthy investor in Asia that he would want to put that kind of money into Vancouver. Times have changed, and what we're seeing now is governments moving towards trying to stop foreign investment from coming in. It's just like the complete reversal. How did we get here, do you think?
It's an unfortunate thing to do, because I think government has to think very long term and not just 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. Yes, at the moment, maybe that's too much money coming in, and things has been pushed up, the price has been pushed up and up. I remember when we were first doing Concord, you are aiming at about $250 a square foot selling price. What is it today?
Well, I just saw one development that's having trouble, but they were selling at $3,000 and $4,000 a square foot.
There you are. Of course they'll get in trouble, because nobody can afford it. When I first came in 1968, Greater Vancouver has about 1.1 million people. Today is about 2.3. Where do we house all these people? How do they get around? What kind of social activity do they have? Does anybody think of that 20 years ago? Well, that's the point. So how are we going to stop another million people coming in another 50 years? And how are we going to deal with all the issues they have? I think it should start now rather than 20 years from now.
Do you enjoy letting your mind wander and think about how things could be done better?
I do. Well, that's the benefit of retirement. You can think about all these things.
So you are technically retired now, although I know you keep busy reading and following issues. When you look back at your decision to make Canada your home for the past 50 years, are you happy with that decision?
I'm very happy with it. Well, I was allowed to do what I'm allowed to do.
You've not only worked here, of course, extensively. I know you did the Laurel Inn in Victoria and various projects around Vancouver, but you did a major project in Dubai.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
What happened was I had someone working for me for a long time, and then I lost touch with him after BC Place was dismantled. It turned out that he was running something in Dubai. So he took his chairman and came to Vancouver to take a look. In fact, I didn't know that he was in fact going around the world picking his architects, picking his team. His chairman happened to like what we were doing in Concord. It's about 2 years since he first came to see me that I never heard of him again. Then they came and said, can you give us, we in fact picked out a firm in California, and we want you to give you your credit to see what you think we have done. Is that the correct thing? So I looked at it and I said, first of all, in the desert, water is a very important thing for you. And they were only 1 block from the sea. So I advised them to buy the 2 end properties so that they can have the water flow. And then I said, you should build a lagoon in the middle, because they have about something like 1,200 acres. It's a huge place. And you can build a big lake in the middle, and you can have all the things you want. Oh, that's a good idea. And then they that's what they went for, and they built a river in between. So I said, you can't have such a river, so you should make it wider. So they made it, so the second time, this time, they reorganized the team, and it's happening in Toronto. So I went there and had a look. I said, it's still too narrow, it's still more. And they had 5-story car park all over the place. So I told them that you shouldn't do that. Because what you should do is excavate an even bigger lagoon, so that all the soil you have, you can pile it up, build it around, and then you can have a basin in between, in the middle. So that basin itself, with the soil digging up, you can fill the roads up, so that you're entering this whole area 3 floors up, and you can hide all the parking without showing it. And they liked the idea, and that's what had happened.
So in a way, you got your lagoon city, after all.
Not entirely. I only did half of it, because I think the sheik was too much in a hurry to develop the thing, and sold another half to other developers that went up 80, 70 stories without even thinking about it. And I think that was unfortunate.
I guess nothing's perfect in life.
Nothing is. We all wish when it happened, and then of course when it's over, you think, oh, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that?
Do you do much of that, thinking I'd like a redo on this project or this relationship? Or?
I do. I do often criticize my own work. Yeah. And I think that's the only way you can improve. For instance, if I may criticize Concord today, what's lacking there is a commercial center, which is gradually happening at the head of Granville Bridge now, which I think is the right thing to do.
How did you manage having a family with such a high-powered career?
Well, it's just like every other family. When 5 o'clock comes, it's family time, right?
Did you manage that?
I did manage that.
That's astounding. So if you, in doing all of this retrospective thinking, what would you like to be remembered for?
I'm just a person. I don't know.
You changed the face of Vancouver in so many ways.
I never thought of it that way. I'm only doing my job, because I was given a job, develop this particular place, and I just go and develop it the best way I think.
And as you said before, the reward is when someone who has lived there for years
and say that they like what you've done. And that's the rule.
Well, thank you for everything you've done, Stanley.
Thank you.
And thank you for your patience at council.
And thank you for saying it.
Stanley Kwok, a BC legend.